So today I'm going to be teaching you guys some techniques on how to take your look from daytime to nighttime. Now, I know I really love doing natural tutorials on Beauty Talk back then during the Zoom lessons in quarantine. So I'm gonna go over all of these techniques and I'm going to be teaching you guys how to do a lot of pro makeup artist techniques that really will transform your entire look. All right guys, so before we start, I just wanna let you guys know about my shop, hyperrealpro.com, where you can shop for prestige makeup, skincare, tools, and hair care. And you can also go on hyperrealacademy.com if you wanna learn about permanent makeup, microblading, permanent eyeliner, permanent lip liner, lip blush, BB glow. So when you go on hyperrealacademy.com, you can sign up for either in-person or online classes. And we are licensed with the AAM, and you do need a license from the AAM to practice microblading in the state of New Jersey. If you want to learn more about permanent makeup, the industry, and how much money you can make from it, go on hyperrealacademy.com. You can shoot me an email. I'll answer you back as soon as I can. All right, let's get back to the video. I already did my base. I already did my moisturizer, serum, essence, sunscreen, and concealer, foundation, all that. So today I'm going to be focusing on how to change your eye shape, your entire bone structure, so that you look completely changed and completely different. Now, what makes a look different? What makes a look go from day to night? So taking a look from day to night starts with the eyebrows, actually. And I'm just gonna do it as I explain it. I'm gonna take my little spoolie. And a really nice technique that I always like to use is soap brow, and the reason why I use soap brow is because I want to have the most lift, and I also want to do a dramatic restructure of the shape of the brow. So you can't really do that unless you have a really strong product to hold the hairs up. So I'm just gonna wet my soap with some water. So then you take your spoolie and then you take this all the way up the brow hair, starting from the base, of course, and you're gonna disperse the product evenly through the entire brow. So you can see there's already a big difference between the left and the right. It's so much bushier, it's so much more structured, and having eyebrows that come up a little bit higher, it'll shorten your forehead a little bit more. So if you have a big forehead, then you want to lift your brows up a little bit more to compensate. Vice versa, if you have a small forehead, then you don't want to fluff up the brows too much. Now my eyebrows are somewhat lifted. They're not too lifted to the point where it looks editorial, and it just reads as somewhat natural. Just a natural little baby lift. The reason why I don't make it too bushy is because I want to do a smoky eye, and when I do a smoky eye, I want to make my eyebrows a little bit narrower, and the lift will help create more intensity in the brow. As I add color, it'll look more intense when there's more of a shape to it. Square brows that go kind of straight, they look good on square faces. They generally look good on Asian faces too because of the wider cheekbones, right? And the straight brows, they look very feminine, very soft and youthful. But if I were to take that brow, that straight brow, and just kind of gently do a little bit of an arch to it, you'll get a more sultry, more mature look. And that's a part of transforming the brows. I'm gonna take my pencil and I'm just gonna fill in a couple pieces here and there. You can either take pencil or dip brow. Actually, you know what? Let me just do dip brow. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a tiny brush, we're gonna go into our dip brow, and we're gonna gently go from bottom to top. You're gonna make tiny baby hairs, and you're just gonna fill in the gaps in the brow, which should be made more apparent based on the amount of soap. So if you put in an adequate amount of soap in the brows, you're gonna be able to see the gaps in which you have sparse brows or no brows. I guess that's mostly for Asian people with sparse eyebrows, because I feel like not everyone would have gaps. But if you have sparse eyebrows, you'll be able to see these gaps right away and you can just fill them right in. And always make sure to put your brush down and check your work as you go, because the one thing that I want to avoid when making your brows more defined is you do not want to make your brows too dark. You do not want to make them too big. You do not want to overwork that. You want to look a little bit intense so that you get that sultry look. But when you have your eyebrows too dark, too thick, too in your face, it's just a little bit too in your face. It's going to make you look too intense. A lot of Instagram eyebrows look like that. It's like the kiss of death almost, because you really can't fix that. All you have to do is wipe it off and start over. So Instagram eyebrows look good because you only see this much of the face, but then you have to take into consideration the rest of your face when you're doing eyebrows. So I just want to make it very clear. And as you're applying the dip brow, you can even lift it a little bit higher. That's totally fine. And soap brow is the technique to turn a straight eyebrow into an arched eyebrow. It's the best way to do it without overloading your eyebrow with too much product. So if you don't want your eyebrows to look intense, fierce, or sultry, like if you prefer the innocent, youthful look, you would do the opposite of what I'm doing. You would not put so much emphasis onto the arch. You would definitely not overload your brows with too much color. And you wouldn't focus on lifting the arch. You would focus on keeping the eyebrows straight and fluffy. Soft focused, not hard edged. And then you can take either a powder, preferably gray. Even with red hair, I still prefer gray. You can either do powder or you can do a pencil, and you're just gonna take that and fill in the rest of the brows where you see any too much definition. You can use the powder to kind of soften it up. If there's any patches, you can use the powder to gently fill it in. And this is the last step. So I think this is the best I can do for the brows. I'm not gonna worry about it too much anymore. So real quick to recap what I did with the brows, I lifted everything all the way up, focusing on the arch, giving it much more definition, and I added a lot of darkness with one layer of dip brow and then another layer of powder on top of that. So that's a lot of darkness, it's a lot of definition, and it's a lot of lift. So that's it. And now we're gonna move on to the next step, which is the smoky eye. So for the smoky eye, there's a couple of ways to do it, and my way, in my opinion, is the best way for oily skin. So to start off, we're gonna be using Makeup Forever Aqua XL as a shimmer base. Now, I wanna do a shimmer base because I want there to be, I don't want it to be a matte smoky eye. I always like to do a multi-dimensional smoky eye, and if you have a shimmer base, you can always put a matte color over to get a satin finish. So I like using these two Makeup Forever Aqua XLs. I think I'm going to be using this one, Warm Toned. So we're just gonna use the Aqua XL. We're gonna focus this color. We're gonna focus it mostly into the center of the eyelid. So that's where the majority of this color is going to stay. And I'm not gonna take this all the way into the inner and outer corners. I'm just trying to focus it on the middle of the lid. But of course you wanna blend it out. Make sure there's no edges, make sure it's not patchy. This product doesn't really get patchy easily, but you still wanna be aware of how you're applying it. And for me, when I do it, I just use one finger to apply it and then a clean finger to blend it. Apply, blend, and then it's over in like 20 seconds. You really need a product that completely sets. Otherwise, you're going to get creasing from the oil. You're going to get a lot of product that will slip right off the skin. That's kind of ugly. So I prefer having a really strong base to control the oil underneath, and this does a really amazing job. So now that I have my oil correcting sort of rock solid base, I'm gonna be using my Makeup Forever dark brown pencil right here. Sometimes I see people use black, I typically don't. And I'm just gonna sketch out the shape that I want using this pencil. I'm gonna try to do a wing. So it's gonna look kind of like this. It's okay if it looks kind of stupid, just the pencil, because we're gonna be blending this out. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just make sure that you get your placement right, and it doesn't have to be perfect. What you're gonna do now is you're gonna take a dense brush. It could be smaller or bigger, it doesn't really matter. I'm gonna take this one, and then I'm gonna take this one. I'm gonna take two brushes. So I'm gonna take the big one, big dense, and I'm just gonna gently go through the color that I just applied. And make sure not to blend it out too much, otherwise you run the risk of it going muddy. You don't want that. You want to blend the edges only, just so that your color, your base doesn't look patchy. But after that, you don't want to blend it too far. Blending the edges only is kind of a skill that you're gonna have to work on. It's one of the most important skills that you have to work on, because that's what gives you your shapes. Otherwise, the only thing you can do are gonna be gradients. Like big blowout gradients, and there's not much versatility in that. So you wanna learn how to blend the edges, because once you do that, you're opening yourself to a world of new looks and opportunities. So once you're happy with your base, now you can go over it with eyeshadow. What I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna be using my Pat McGrath palette, and I'm gonna be using this lovely brown shade right here to really create that shadow. So I'm just gonna take my pointed dense brush. I'm gonna wipe off most of the pigment on the back of my hand. You can always dip back into it as you go, and then you're just gonna cover that. You're gonna cover that base with the shadow. And that gives you just this really beautiful, controlled, intense color. And the more time and effort you spend blending out that pencil base, the easier it will be to put eyeshadow over the base. Okay, so after that, take what remains on your brush and go right into the lower lash line, because you want to balance the top part of the lid with the lower part of the lid. So whatever you do to the top, you want to balance it out on the bottom. To warm up the look further, I'm going to take my Smith brush, my small triangular Smith brush, if I can find it. So I'm gonna use the shade Blazing right here. This is the Desert Dust palette. And this one you definitely have to wipe off on the back of your hand. It's really pigmented. I actually don't like pigmented eyeshadows all that much. I like buildable eyeshadows. So you're gonna take this color and you're gonna warm up the edges of the look that you just created. And then for the finishing touch, I'm gonna take my flat brush from Hakuhodo, and I'm gonna go back into that Pat McGrath palette, and I'm gonna be using these really cool shades right here. I'm gonna use a combination of the gold and the pink dual chromes. So it looks pretty good. I think it goes with the look, so I'm just gonna go ahead and try that. So for the final touch, I'm just gonna take my bigger fluffy brush, and then I'm gonna go into what's left of that brown shade on the back of my hand. I'm gonna use it as a contour. So what I like to do is I like to focus a lot of darkness into the inner corner area, and I also like to blend that color all the way up to the brows. And that serves as my contour, because I want to create further darkness and further dimension and add that bone structure. And that's what makes you look even more intense, because when you're adding shadow here, not only does it balance with what you just did, all that like fancy stuff to the outer corners of your eyes, not only does it pull everything together, but it also creates that added layer of intensity to your eyes. Always more intensity. Intensity is the theme of today's look. And if you use a smaller brush, the intensity, that area that you're adding intensity would be more apparent. If you're using a bigger brush, it would be more diffused. So it just depends on what kind of contour style you're going for. And if you take that into the bridge of your nose, it'll actually kind of pinch your nose in a little bit. Okay. And for the final touch, you can add an inner corner highlight. What I would recommend, if you have a really shimmering center. I wouldn't do too heavy of an inner corner highlight. So I would take a small brush and I would go into a satin finish shade or a matte shade. So one of my favorite ones to use is this one right here, Desert Sand. And I'm just gonna pop that into the inner corner. You see it's barely doing anything. All it does is kind of cut through that contour that we just applied. And I don't want the inner corner to overpower the middle of the eyelid because we already put so much shimmer on here. We just want to make it kind of like this is the focal point, and then this also pops out a little bit, and then this just kind of pulls everything back into the background. So that's it, and I'm gonna finish it up with kind of like a cat wing on the inner corner as well, and you're gonna see how that makes the look even more intense. So I'm just gonna sharpen this pencil right here. You wanna make sure you have a really sharp point. So we're just gonna take that and we're gonna sketch out an inner corner wing. And I like to take this color all the way into the tear duct. And you don't have to make the wing too apparent. You can just do a little one or you can do a big one. It's up to you. I would recommend looking at your eye shape and determining whether you want to do a big or a little wing based on that. So that's it. And if you think you really need to clean the wing any further, you can always use your pencil. I prefer having it blended because I like that soft effect. Because it's already such a harsh shape, I just want to keep it a little softer. That's my kind of stylistic choice. So after that, we're gonna take our mascara and we're gonna just apply some mascara on our lower lash line. And then we're also going to use a pen liner to just kind of shade in a little bit where we're gonna apply our false lashes. And I always recommend false lashes with these kind of looks because it will just really tie the look together. So for the contour, I just try to match whatever's going on here. And because what I'm doing right now is really structured, it's really sharp, and I added a lot of darkness to my eyes, I want to kind of match that energy with my contour. So I'm going to be using a powder contour, and I'm going to be taking my airbrush brush, and I'm going to go into this light bronzer shade. And I'm just going to use that to gently chisel out my cheekbone. And make sure when you're adding layers and blending it out, don't make your motions too wide because you want to focus that color onto the bottom of your cheekbone. You don't want to make your contour muddy, you don't want to lose that structure that you're trying to create. And when using something like the airbrush, you can take it on its side, which is somewhat flat. You can take this to chisel it out and then use the flat part to blend. So it's going to be this kind of motion right here. And it's super easy to use. You can just do a full contour with only a few motions. I love it. I love this brush. And you can blend the rest of the product into your jawline if you feel like you need it. You can also blend the rest of it into your temple. I typically don't, but it just depends on how you like to contour. So after that, you can choose to either do a blush or skip the blush. When I do looks like this, I usually skip the blush because when you place blush, it kind of warms your face up a little bit too much and it could be distracting sometimes. So I always like to keep it simple. If I do a chiseled contour, I keep it simple. I don't add any blush. And for the highlight, because I'm super oily, I just choose not to do a highlight. I choose to mattify the T-zone area and then the rest of it, it'll just kind of naturally get oily. So that's my highlight. Yeah, but if you want to do a highlight, I would recommend doing some liquid or powder highlight just right along here, over the bridge of the nose, temples, chin. I'm not going to do any of that because it's really, really oily today. And I'm going to use my HD powder right here. So I'm going to use my Makeup Forever HD powder, and that's going to blend my pores in and just diffuse these nasty ass pores. When you have oily skin, you just naturally have big pores. It is what it is, and with the HD powder, it could diffuse it. The effect is more prominent in pictures than in real life, to be honest, but that's the whole purpose of HD powder. So you can blend it over wherever you want to conceal fine lines, wrinkles, blemishes, or big pores. Okay, I'm gonna be kind of adventurous today. I'm gonna be using my Freckle Fiesta Fenty lip color, And the way that I'm gonna do it, I'm just gonna apply and then I'm gonna blend out the edges with a dense brush. Oh, I keep forgetting how intense this color is. Okay, this is very pumpkin spice right now. I don't know if I did that on purpose, but yeah, I'm feeling very pumpkin spice right now. And when you're working with intense color like this one, you have to be very intentional with how you're blending it. All right, that's it. So this is the look for today. Thank you so much for joining me on today's beauty talk. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up to let me know and comment anything you want to comment down below. Tell me about your makeup suggestions. Tell me about some of your own beauty tips and tricks and your most transformative techniques. So if you guys want to see more from me, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell for notifications. All right, that's it. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.